This is an experimental film. It aims to give a brief introduction to one of the largest university libraries in the country, with total holdings now approaching the 1 million mark. Its size brings various problems, but the most difficult is undoubtedly how to make the best use of its resources. And this is particularly acute for the freshman. Any newcomer will, of course, experience some difficulty in finding his way about and exploiting the stock to the full. In the film, you will see a student enter the main university library building and trace, in very broad outline, the successful finding and borrowing of a book. During this visit, a quick look is taken at some of the principal service departments. After the main library sequence, the two libraries holding scientific and medical literature are shown. The borrowing procedures and services are virtually the same as those in the main university library. In addition to this film, we print a short guide to the libraries. Conducted lecture tours are also available, and for the more advanced worker, courses in the use of subject bibliographies. Information about these services can be obtained from the enquiry desks. In particular, I should emphasize that these libraries and services are yours. The staff, whether senior graduate, technical, or service, are all ready and willing to help. It is up to you to ask. A student is seen entering the main university library building, of which an outside view has just been shown. This building, at the foot of Lime Grove, contains literature on the humanities. He approaches the cloakroom, deposits his briefcase, which is received by a library porter, and a token is handed over as a receipt. He goes up the stairs, making for the entrance within the library leading to the main services. These, as you will see, are clearly signposted. At the top of the stairs, he passes through the gate, which all readers must pass through on entering the library, and he addresses his remarks, his queries, to the library assistant at the reception desk. He returns a book, which he has had out on loan. When the book has been handed in, the borrowing voucher cancelled, he goes towards the catalogue hall. This hall contains all the author and subject catalogues to the university library holdings, and many general works of reference. The author catalogue is that which gives the entry of a book under the name or the title, and the subject catalogue shows the books divided by subject. We shall now see the entrance to the hall through which he comes, and he is going immediately to the service counter to ask for information about a specific book. Obviously, he has not obtained this book from a departmental reading list, otherwise the information which he is asking the girl to give would have been already provided. The catalogue hall contains important bibliographies, such as the British National Bibliography, which the library assistant is now taking down. This will supply the bibliographical information which the undergraduate will then look up in the catalogue. The young lady is now seen deliberately making a mistake. She is infringing one of the library regulations and also offending most book lovers. She has written on a voucher placed on an open book. The reader, complete with information, now goes to the author, or as we sometimes call it, the name catalogue, locates the drawer, and within the drawer he will soon locate details of the book he wants. There it is, David Cowan, An Introduction to Modern Literary Arabic. On the left-hand side of the card is what we call the press mark, or the location mark. This is made up of dewey classification number and a shelf mark. He now writes onto a slip of paper provided in the library the details of the location of the book which he is seeking, and is entering the press mark. This press mark identifies this particular book among all the others in the library. The camera, meantime, glances at different rooms leading off from the main catalogue hall. This is the main periodical room, where current periodical parts are kept. Periodicals in this room, whether complete or in parts, cannot be removed from the library, and the tables are strictly reserved for readers of these works. Here you get a much clearer view of the unbound parts preserved for immediate use. This literature is especially important in enabling the reader to keep right up to date in his own subject. When periodicals are complete in each year, that is, with all the current parts available, they are sent for binding in the library bindery. We now take a quick look into the cataloguing room, where graduate staff are compiling the entries which are later incorporated into the catalogues outside. These members of staff are expert in many fields of bibliography and are always ready and willing to help all readers. The undergraduate now looks at a plan of the library. There are many of these plans in the building. He has been able to discover, first, the general area where the book that he is seeking is located, and he has come down to the ground floor in the west wing. He is passing through a typical reading room, which is now somewhat distorted by the light, and will eventually go through into the stacks. The reading rooms contain general works of reference on the subjects located in this part of the library, and in this particular case this means classics, Near Eastern studies and theology. The reader has now passed from the reading room, is consulting another more detailed plan in the passageway between the reading room and the stack, and then proceeds into the stack to discover the actual place of the book on the shelves. And here he is, seen in the immediate area, finding the book that he came to look for. You will note here that the books are arranged in sequences of small or medium-sized books and larger books. The book he seeks is an average-sized one, and you will see the press marks impressed on the bottom of the spines of the books. That is, the parts of the book which project outwards. This mark will identify for him the actual book that he seeks, and there he has it. Cowan, Modern Literary Arabic, and again at the bottom left-hand side you can just see the press mark of the book. The press mark, which we repeat frequently, is merely another way of saying the classified place on the shelf within the bay which distinguishes this book from all the others. Sitting at the table, he examines the book in greater detail, once again checking to see that he has the correct title, all this information being supplied once more within the covers of the book. There is the title page. We have just seen an open access library at work. The reader consulted the catalogue, proceeded to the stacks, and obtained the book, essentially, by himself. Whilst he peruses the books, we shall look at other facilities which the main library building offers. Our microfilm facilities are among the very best in Britain, and here a reader is using a standard microform reading machine to consult one of the 150,000 odd volumes which we have in microform. This second reader is consulting microprint on a microprint reader. Through this microform medium, we store many thousands of volumes in an area which, translated into book terms, is only a fraction of that required by the actual books. This facility is a developing one, and more people are taking advantage of it. The University Library runs also its own bindery with the very high standards, and all the crafts that are associated with fine bindings are practiced here. The manager of the bindery, himself a fine craftsman, is seen here putting the press mark, this most important mark, onto the spine of a book. We shall now take a quick look at the sewing activities in the library bindery, and here both hand and machine methods are used. Readers rarely realize that the large amount of work which goes into the preparation of a book for the shelf is frequently accomplished within the main library building. This glimpse at our bibliographical unit points to the future, when the history of printing at an academic level will be taught in the University Library. We have here a 19th century printing shop, complete with Albion type press. From the old, we shall now go back again to the new in the photographic department, where Xerox activities and all photocopying facilities are available at a very high level of efficiency. This young lady is examining under ultraviolet ray an older book. Our sound recording studios are much used, largely by people engaged in linguistic or dramatic exercises. A technician is here adjusting one of the many tape recording machines which are employed in the day-to-day running of this department, and it is worthwhile noting that the film you are seeing was prepared in this part of the library. These facilities are all described in literature available both in the printed guide and in the University Library. The exhibition hall, which you can now see, is a grand room in the traditional style of libraries, and it does emphasise that we in Manchester, although a comparatively young library, have extensive collections of rare books. Here is the Shakespeare First Folio, which, though by no means the most important book in our special collections, is obviously one of the books that most people like to look at. This manuscript, a book of ours from the Prince-Lee collection, is one of the many, perhaps unexpected treasures in the University Library. These items, of very great value, cannot of course be used freely by the ordinary reader, but many exhibitions of this kind of literature are staged in this hall. Special collections are increasingly playing an important part in the students' general undergraduate training. We're now back with the undergraduate who, having identified the book, has looked at it and has decided to take it out. He has returned to the main reception area again, where he is filling in a borrowing voucher which will enable him to take the book out of the library. It is absolutely necessary at this point to give all the details that are asked for on the voucher, to write legibly, and to observe the regulations which apply to borrowing. On the way out of the library, he is taking a look at the shelves containing new acquisitions. Here we exhibit weekly the books which are coming into the library, but since this part of the film has been concerned with the main University Library building, this particular bookcase does not include accessions to the medical and science libraries. These are, however, all incorporated in one weekly list of accessions. Detailed instructions about borrowing are posted to the reader. Here he is seen handing in his voucher and is passing through the gate on the way out, and the assistant, having examined the book to make sure that he is removing from the library is in fact the book which is recorded on the voucher, files it away. Out the way he came in. He will collect his bag again from the cloakroom counter, and we shall then be able to take a look at science and medicine. While he redeems the token, it is important to note that bags, coats, umbrellas should be deposited in the cloakroom, not brought into the main reading areas of the library. We are now in the main quadrangle, where the science section of the University Library, the Christie Science Library, is located, and we see a reader returning a book to the assistant at the reception. She seeks out the voucher, which indicates the book borrowed in his name, and this is destroyed. The borrower should be quite sure that vouchers are destroyed when a book is returned. Otherwise, it is possible to have misunderstandings. Coming in now is a young lady going through exactly the same procedures as we saw in the main University Library. She's handed in her belongings at the cloakroom, and exactly as in the main building, notices are up relating to this. In the Christie Library, all the important current literature, essentially periodical literature, is stored on the ground floor. This reflects the scientist's particular need to have access to the most current materials immediately. The library assistant is seen here shelving parts of periodicals in their appropriate slots. All the services, photographic, enquiry, borrowing, cataloguing, are on this ground floor in the Christie Library to facilitate the type of service which the scientific researcher and the science student require. The young lady in charge of the Xerox machine is observed here from a bird's eye point of view, copying an article from a periodical. This is a very frequent demand in the science and medical libraries, and this service, which it is necessary to provide so that material is quickly available, is available here with a minimum amount of trouble, always remembering to observe the Copyright Act. The Christie Library, a building much more in the Victorian style, is equally more in the tradition of the older library. Galleries, in which materials much less frequently used are stored, are in evidence throughout the ground floor. And these galleries, as with all parts of the University Library, except special collections, are on direct, open access to all readers. This means that you can come and go almost at will in virtually all areas of the University Libraries. As one would expect, the least used material is put in the places which are least accessible. Another library assistant just returned a periodical volume to the shelves. These are, of course, the earlier holdings of periodicals. Here you see a typical group of students at work in one of the principal reading rooms on the ground floor. The main undergraduate science reading room is, however, on the first floor of the Christie Library. And here we see a member of staff coming up to this floor, where monographs on subject literature are kept. It is an imposing room, and is the principal reading room for science undergraduates, as I said. It still brings to the attention of the reader the essential qualities that one associates with a university library. It combines dignity with a reasonable degree of efficiency. Books are shelved here in exactly the same way as they are in the main university library building. That is, according to the Dewey classification system, with the same system of press marking on the spines, the same system of book plates within, and the same sorting into sizes. Books that you may notice occasionally with a big white spot on the spine are books which cannot be removed from the university libraries. They are for reference only and are essentially for the undergraduate. Outside on the stairs is a monument to Professor Richard Copley Christie, who bequeathed to us this building along with his personal library of very valuable books. On the ground floor, once more, the reader is using the author catalogue in exactly the same way as the reader did in the main university library building. All users of the libraries should remember that the key to our great resources is, in fact, the catalogue. Browsing certainly finds numbers of books on the shelves, but the only truly accurate guide to the university library stock lies in the catalogues. We now go to the medical library, which is housed in the medical faculty building itself. This is the oldest of the library buildings in use, but not the oldest of our library collections. It is made up of a number of rooms on, often, different levels. It is available for all members of the university, and it should be noted that all members of the university are eligible to use all the university libraries. Here a reader is making use of our very extensive enquiry services and has been directed by an assistant to the appropriate area of the library. As in other parts of the university library seen so far, the appropriate regulations are posted in different areas, and once again the space is allocated in such a way that current research materials and undergraduate materials are in the most accessible places. The students' reading room, in common with all the others in the university, contains copies of student textbooks, often multiple copies of such textbooks. It is our aim to provide, in the appropriate quantities, the essential undergraduate reading, so that all students have equal opportunities and accessibility to books during their university courses. The members' room in the medical library is reserved, as one might expect, for the members, and here we see the layout on the long tables of the current parts of periodicals. The regulations governing the use of these parts are similar to those in the main university library building. In other words, the latest issues cannot be removed from the library itself. It cannot be emphasized too strongly that the literature which is preserved in all the libraries is available for use for all members of the university, whether they be in the medical library, in the Radford Library, which is part of the medical library, in the Christie Library, or in the main university library building. In making use of the libraries, given the various aids and assistance from staff to readers, the amount of success you have will still depend, essentially, upon the effort which you are prepared to put into the use of the library.